What's up, everybody? This is the Booch, and welcome to episode 38 of the Boochcast reviews, Darkside of the Ring. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined once again by the one, the only, the broke soulless ginger, Mr. Zach Scott.
What's up, dudettes? Yes, it's me, the broke soulless ginger Zach Scott. Junior speaking, I'm not that broke yet. And today we are doing Darkside of the Ring of none other than the man with the flame on his head, Bam Bigelow, is known as his non-shoot name, Scott Charles Bigelow. And ladies and gentlemen, I love this right here. He was a big, scary dude, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Oh, he was a bad motherfucker.
Oh, yeah, he was. And what DDP said, he said, if he liked you, he liked you. If he did like you, you're fucked. Kind of like Andre. Randy Savage. Anyway.
Yes,
right.
little different from that. But yes, we are here to talk about Bam Bigelow, the Beast from the East, ladies and gentlemen. And this one was a special one for me because this is a guy I actually grew up watching. I was a fan of Bam Bigelow. I knew him from his WCW days more than the other eras that he wrestled in. And I knew Dallas was going to be in this one because I didn't know how close of a friendship they had, but I definitely knew in the business they were friends. Especially when they mentioned later he was part of the Jersey Triad with DDP and Chris Kanyon. And of course, if you want to know more about Chris Kanyon, you can go see the episode that Elvis and I did on Chris Kanyon, where Buff Bagwell made a cameo appearance in that episode, if you want to check that out. Also, his rivalry with Goldberg was fucking epic. Goldberg and Bam, they were not afraid to throw down. Both guys who were bad motherfuckers. And I'm excited to get into this one, especially since, and I'll tell this little story here. As you guys know, Bam Bigelow is from Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Yeah, here we go.
I am no stranger to Asbury Park, New Jersey. I didn't grow up there. I lived in Freehold, and then I later moved to Howell. But I have been to Asbury Park a few times. So I knew where Bam Bigelow lived. I mean, not his actual house, but I know he lived in the area. And in fact, I think his son went to Ocean High School or middle school in that area because his son was on the wrestling team. Now, the district I was in, we never wrestled Ocean Middle School. That just wasn't where we were. But I was familiar with that area. And there was always a part of me that if we did wrestle them, I would have been happy just to see Bam Bigelow. I probably would be the only one going over to the other team going, can I get your autograph? I would have done that shit. I'm sorry, I'm in 7th grade. I wouldn't have known any better. You know,
We didn't know anything better than this grade.
Well, when you're a kid, you don't understand the celebrity boundaries like we do today.
No, we don't.
And when you're an adult, you understand, when it comes to celebrities, pick your timing when to go see them. You don't know that when you're a kid. You don't understand that. That's why most of the time, celebrities don't get mad at kids who bum rush and approach them. Because they know they're kids. Adults, they'll tell you, hey, chill the fuck out.
Fuck off.
Now, enough about that. You don't want to hear this shit. You want to get into the story. So we're going to get into the story right now.
Yeah.
Arriving on the scene like a force of nature, Bam Bigelow catapulted to the top of the wrestling world and never looked back. Everyone knew who he was, and if you didn't know, you recognized him when you saw his face and the flame tattoo on his head. He also had flames all over his gear. So flames was a big part of his gimmick. Big part. Wrestling rewarded Bam's talents with money and fame, but those rewards came with a heavy price. He eventually started taking pills to ease the pain and or make it go away. But Bam's addiction eventually pushed him beyond the point of redemption, destroying everything he loved.
And as somebody who's done his fair share of stupidity, the one thing I never ever got hooked on are those pain pills. The courtesy of that, I did watch the show Painkiller. That's roughly what happens. And they do work, but they are highly addictive. I was like, yeah, I'm going to stay away from those.
Yes.
And then, no, Also away with gambling. Here's the reason why. Because I was really stuck at it.
Yes, and as you know from when you've watched this series, pain pills has been a thing that's been a common occurrence. And of course, if you saw the steroid trials episode, you know a little bit about that. And whenever Lance and I do Darkside of Football, we'll get into more about painkillers in that series. So, Bam was a family man and was more excited about having kids than main eventing WrestleMania. He got married and was back on the road 2 days later. So literally it was like he was off for his marriage, he had an extra day after that, and then boom, he was back on the road. And the thing is, before anybody makes it clear, his wife understood.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing you need to have in a marriage. If you're going to be a wrestler, if you're going to be a comedian, you're going to be any kind of entertainer, or have any kind of job that requires you to travel, be on the road, and away from the family, you need that supportive structure. You need a wife that can handle that shit and is willing to support that. Because if you don't have that, you're either going to end up quitting your job or losing your family. His daughter Richie said the last time she saw him was they were driving in a car and he was nodding off behind the wheel. She knew there was a problem and started panicking and yells she has to go to the bathroom. He pulls the car over, but then she changes her mind. She sees him do it again and yells for the bathroom. They pull into a diner and the cops show up and arrest Bam Bam. So right there in the parking lot of this diner, they arrested him and took him away.
And for what it says, that was the last time she ever saw him. Mm-hmm. That was the last time he was evidently dealing with a lot of crap.
Yes. So. Bam Bam grew up in Asbury Park, New Jersey, near Neptune. Which, yes, that is an actual city in New Jersey, Neptune. Don't ask me why. I didn't fucking name it.
Is the next town called Uranus?
No, that was the city before Neptune.
Ah.
Okay, yeah, that's the one before it. But no, there's no city called Uranus. Although people try to think New Jersey is the anus of New York, but I've never called it that. Although they do call it the Garden State, which I think is highly overrated. I ain't seen one fucking garden in that entire fucking state. So, Bruce Springsteen was popular back then. So, Bruce Springsteen was the guy. Everybody
he was from New Jersey.
Yes. You know, and Bruce Springsteen, like, if you grew up in that area, or in that era, you were a big fan of Springsteen. I knew Adam Sandler worshipped Springsteen. I was a fan of Springsteen. I like a lot of songs. Glory Days is one of my favorites. Yeah. I like Streets of Philadelphia. Yeah. You know, there's just a lot of Bruce Springsteen. He is truly an amazing, incredible talent. Yeah. So, Bruce Springsteen is one of those guys you got no choice but to respect. I still remember his Super Bowl performance. Mm. That was fucking phenomenal. Now, he was at the Quack Quack bar. Quack Quack. Yes. Where he met DDP. Because DDP owned a bar, I think it was called Club Xanadu, near there. So they're hanging out at the Quack Quack. And he meets DDP and they did shots and they bonded. And they became very quick friends. He was also a high school football player and wrestler. And even back then, he was called the Beast from the East.
He was so fucking big.
Yeah. But that's the thing. That wasn't just a wrestling gimmick. That was his actual legit nickname as a kid. And a lot of people, that's where you get some of your nicknames and ideas from. Hell, that's where I got Booch.
This is where I get Red.
Well, I'm talking about, like, nicknames that people know. We don't call you Red on the show.
No, that's my other...
Booch was a family nickname. I was called that all through New Jersey, and I found out it was a family nickname when I was in Philadelphia. My grandfather took me and my brother down 9th Street because he was watching us at the time, because my parents had to go to a funeral for a relative that we didn't know, so there was no point in taking us. But as we're walking down the street, a bunch of people going, "Hey, Booch, what's up, Booch?" And I'm looking around, so I'm like, who the fuck followed me from New Jersey? Only to find out that they were talking to my grandfather. I found out later my dad is also called Booch. I found out later my cousin Christina, who recently got married, she's also called Booch. I don't know if she still has that nickname now. She's changed her last name. And even Sonny sometimes gets called Booch. To the point where during my heyday on the regular guys, some people were calling Sonny Booch. They thought Sonny was me and bought him free drinks all night. He came up to me and he said, "Hey, I hope you don't mind, Vinny. Some people thought I was Booch. I pretended to be you to get some free drinks." And I'm like, "Did you say anything stupid or make a scene?" He goes, "No." I'm like, "Fucking go ahead. I don't care."
There you go.
I'm like, "Yeah, fine. If it gets you free shit, get you free shit." But by the way, if you bought him drinks that night, that wasn't me. But it's funny. I love it. So,
but, like, Boochie was drinking. I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, it was his brother Sonny. Like, oh.
I later made Booch a brand name because it got popular. But I was called Booch long before I hit the regular guys, the comedy scene, or anything like that. That was a nickname from years ago. He was a heavyweight wrestler during a time when the heavyweight class was unlimited. Because nowadays, in high school wrestling, it's now called 275. Because here's how the weight classes are. Now, in college, they're a little different. But this is high school. It's the lowest weight class is 103. There's 103, there's 112, there's 119, which is what I was on the varsity team, 125, 130, 135, 140, 145, 152, 160, 171, 189, 215, heavyweight. That's what it used to be. So if you were over 215 pounds, you were in the heavyweight division. So you could be 225 and wrestle a motherfucker that's 400. And people realized, we need to put a cutoff on this. Because 400-pound people were crushing motherfuckers to the point where they couldn't fucking breathe.
One time, that Bam Bam hurt his ankle and couldn't perform. Then all of a sudden, this kid, he came up there and he just stared at it and goes, boo. He goes like, nope. He wins. Like forfeit.
He won by forfeit, yeah. Because he intimidated the other guy. And here's the thing. He hopped out on the ankle to accept the forfeit. Mm-hmm. So you know the kid was probably going, fuck, I could have won. Mm-hmm. Because all he had to do was take his leg out.
Pretty much.
But Bam Bam knew he couldn't wrestle on it. Because your ankle is your support system.
Pretty much.
You know, that's one of those injuries where you're not a pussy if you sit out with an injured ankle. Because if you can't move on your ankle, you can't do shit.
Nope.
But that's how they used to be. So then eventually they made it 275 because they had to put a cap to make it fair. Because these weight classes are here for a reason. Because if someone's heavier than you, it puts them at an advantage or a disadvantage because it's hard to lift somebody that's heavier than you. You're in the same weight class. You should be able to fight man to man. So that's the key thing. It's the key element. So that's why that shit is important. Again, those are lessons that we had to learn over the years. You know, that's what happens in sports. Sometimes sports has to evolve to accommodate reasonable areas. Like the Darkside of the Ring, we talked about the UFC. Mm-hmm. They were no holds barred. They were anything goes until eventually it's like, all right, we got to put some rules in here, man.
Yeah.
They realized right away, okay, we need to have some law. Now, him and his brother used to jump off billboards onto mattresses. They were doing crazy extreme shit even then. He once got in a fight where he bit a kid's ear off in a fight.
Damn, I didn't know Mike Tyson was already out there sometimes.
Well, this is different from Mike Tyson because Mike Tyson did it and got disqualified. Mm-hmm. Bam Bam wasn't boxing. He was fighting for survival.
Pretty much.
And everybody knows this cardinal rule. In a street fight, anything goes.
Anything goes. And
in a street fight.
And also it says here on Wikipedia, sometimes that's truthful and that's not, that Bam Bam Bigelow was charged with aggravated assault, kidnapping, criminal restraint, drug possession, robbery, and sexual assault. Spent 9 months in the Albert Wenger Youth Correctional Facility and also did 6 months in the Mexican prison because he was a bounty hunter as well. Yeah, Bam Bam Bigelow being a scary-ass bounty hunter. You saw him coming after you, you're like, yeah.
Well, here's what happened. He had a short stint as a bounty hunter, and he got sent to Mexico to rescue a girl who had been kidnapped. And he beats the guy senseless, and basically, Bam Bam had a partner. His partner got killed because the guy shot his partner. Bam Bam was able to take him down. He got arrested, and he was in that prison. But here's the problem. The prison couldn't hold him because the walls are made with terracotta clay. So he would break through the sumbitch and walk right out.
Like maybe by like Juggernaut. All he has to do is just run through the door. Boom,
no, it's the type of shit you would see in like a cartoon where a guy like blows up the wall or a guy like runs through the wall or whatever.
Kind of like Terminator 2.
That one too. Like, you know, some people say, no prison can hold me. Bam Bam took that shit literally. Just like the Kool-Aid man. Oh yeah. Just busts through the fucking wall.
Kind of like Hulk too.
So, because they realize, okay, we can't lock this fucking guy up, a judge hires him to be his security against the cartel. He said, look, he's got mob guys who are going to come in and try to kill him, but he has to sentence them. So he said, look, if you agree to be my bodyguard for a little while, kind of protect me, be my security, I'll reduce your sentence. So Bam Bam agrees and basically beat the shit out of a bunch of guys and try to kill the judge in the courtroom. So a lot of guys would try to rush the judge, and Bam Bam was beating him up, knocking him out, throwing him out the goddamn window.
I like a bouncer out of the club. He would do what Uncle Phil did to Jay. Toss him out like, ah! Toss him out on their ass. And speaking of that, I went to a strip club where that one I used to go quite a bit. This was not with you. This guy kept on grabbing a girl, and I saw this big guy like Bam Bam, bald-headed, tattoos all over his face. Picked him up like this, by his pants, pushed open the door, and goes, and threw him. And I saw the whole thing. I was like, back in my head, hey, what do you know? Dinner and a show. I was like, yes, sir. Okay. Yep. Don't fuck with him.
And here's the thing. There were a lot of crazy stories about Bam Bam. They said one night he was driving by, saw a house on fire, ran in and saved a bunch of kids.
And got 40% of his body burned, too. Ooh.
That looked bad.
That had to look bad.
No, it looks sad. One night he goes to Club Xanadu with his biker buddies and hangs out with DDP, as I mentioned before, he owned the bar. Dallas goes up to him, pats him on the shoulder and says, hey, Bammer, there's not going to be any trouble tonight, right? He goes, nah, Paige, I wouldn't do that to you.
Oh, bullshit.
Well, no, he's being serious because Bam's like, look, I'm not going to start shitting my buddy's bar. Now, if somebody fucks with Bam, he'll defend himself, but he ain't looking for trouble. So they start drinking and they talk about wrestling. And this is when Dallas told the story about how, obviously, as most people know, DDP's story. He started wrestling at the age of 35. That's when he decided to get in the ring and take wrestling seriously. But he first tried wrestling when he was 22. He tried it for a little while, didn't see much of a future in it, and he kind of stopped. But then he eventually got in as a wrestling manager, and then they stopped making him a manager because he was the same size or bigger than the talent. And if you're a manager, you're not supposed to be built like a wrestler if you're a manager. You have to be basically built like me. My physique is for a manager, and I can cut promos, so I would make the perfect manager. So if anybody out there is looking for someone to manage them on the indie scene,
Vincenzo the Butler!
Yep. I have credentials. I managed Buff Bagwell during a clusterfuck battle royal. I think that's good enough of a reference.
Pretty much.
So, during this conversation, DDP encourages Bam to get into the business. He goes to train with Larry Sharp at the Monster Factory.
I never heard of him, have you?
I haven't heard of Larry Sharp, but I am familiar with the Monster Factory because that does come up quite a bit in AEW. There's some guys who've come out of the Monster Factory who've gone there. And sometimes I get them confused with the Nightmare Factory, which is Cody's school that QT Marshall helps to run. But the Monster Factory's in New Jersey. So if anybody out there in the New Jersey area, if you're looking to break into the business, the Monster Factory's where you want to go. Larry saw him as money, and people instantly noticed his athleticism and his willingness to learn and get better.
He was a 400-pound dude doing fucking cartwheels. I couldn't do a cartwheel at the age of 20 to save my fucking life.
I mean, I had a decent cartwheel. I just couldn't keep my legs straight up in the air.
That was mine was half bent and everything.
Me too! Me too!
You see, like, I wish I could do that. Also, while I was remember in elementary school, we were jumping off of the rope, and one girl was actually very good at gymnastics, would jump and do a cartwheel over the jump rope. I was like, all the kids were, yay!
Oh yeah, that's fucking awesome.
Oh, awesome. I was like, oh, holy shit.
Oh yeah. Was it a single rope or was it double dutch?
It was single.
It was single.
We held it, and he would just jump over it.
Oh, you held it, so it wasn't like you weren't turning it.
No,
okay.
No.
But here's the key thing that I also want to talk about here, not just the athleticism, but his willingness to learn and get better.
Listen.
Coachable. You know, something that the most modern wrestlers today are not fucking coachable.
Yeah.
In fact, you want to hear a key thing that most people forget? You remember the Undisputed Era?
Of course.
NXT?
Yeah.
Do you want to know part of the reason Triple H pushed them to the fucking moon?
Why?
3 reasons. 1, they had talent. 2, they were over. And 3, they were coachable.
Very coachable.
Adam Cole, baby, despite the fact he's the only 3-time Ring of Honor World Champion, he finally won the Triple Crown because he's tag team champs with MJF. At least at the time that we're recording this. Hopefully by the time this gets released, they're still the champs.
Yes.
But despite all the success he had, he did not walk into NXT like he owned the fucking place. He was willing to learn. He was willing to be coached. He was willing to sit under the learning tree of Triple fucking H and learn. That's what makes these guys great. When they're around the big names, they don't try to act like they're on their level or bigger. They want to sit under the learning tree. They want to learn. The biggest problem with AEW today is a lot of these guys aren't fucking coachable. You have the best minds in that locker room, and none of you want to fucking listen to them. And that's why the company has a bitch of a time growing and why it's hard to have faith in it. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, I do not want AEW to fail. I do not want AEW to go out of business. I want places for wrestlers to work. But just because I want more places for wrestlers to work doesn't mean I'm going to turn a blind eye to shitty wrestling or shitty booking. If you want me to get invested in your product, do better. And I fucking will. Because when AEW does great shit, I acknowledge it. Every time. And just to be clear, I call stupid shit everywhere. AEW, NXT, WWE, Impact Wrestling, whatever. I don't care what 3 letters you put in front of the company. If it's good, I say it's good. If it's shit, I say it's shit. You can agree or disagree in my opinion, but know one thing. I am consistent. There's no selective outrage with me. I put everybody on the same fucking scale. Tell me when I'm telling lies.
You're not.
In 1985, Scott Bigelow was on the brink of stardom. Having made a clean break from a troubled past, Larry takes him under his wing and saw him as a babyface, and gave him the name Bam Bam because he reminded him of Bam Bam from the Flintstones.
Bam, bam,
Somehow I knew that's where he got that name, but no one ever said it, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, now I realize, that's where you got Bam Bam from the Flintstones. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the obvious answer, and we didn't notice it. Despite being a rookie to the wrestling scene, those with an eye for the business see Bam Bam's incredible potential, especially soon-to-be industry pioneer Paul Heyman.
He had hair.
Yes.
And then wear a hat.
Well, he didn't wear the hat till he got to ECW because he wanted to look like one of the boys. Paul first started in the business working for wrestling magazines. This is before he became Paulie Dangerously the manager, before he became the owner of ECW, before he became the advocate for Brock Lesnar, and before he became the wise man to the tribal chief. This is where he got his start in the business.
A lot of people hate Paul Heyman. I love Paul Heyman.
He's great.
Yeah, he's not with the business part, but when he does promos, he's one of the best person with promos.
Yes.
Ever. He's good at hyping people up. That's what he is. And he looks like he's a kind of a prick, but I tell you what, if you said he looks like he would have a conversation. He doesn't look like he's a bad dude at all. So I have never heard anything bad about him.
I've heard plenty of bad things, but it's because of the way he handled ECW. He had a great mind for wrestling, but he didn't have a great mind for business and finances. He bounced a lot of checks on people. Paul Heyman, there was a lot of times where he mismanaged money. And if you saw the Chris and Tammy episode, you know a little bit of what I'm talking about. He was always promoting Bam Bam like he was a phenomenon, and he hadn't even had a match yet. Yet he's still training.
Okay.
Because there's a time where you train for a long time before you have a match. At least ideally is what you're supposed to do. Because they want to make sure you're ready. Like Hogan told the story, he trained for 2 years with Hiro Matsuda before he had his first match. Now, the quicker you progress, the quicker you get to that first match. But when you first break into school, expect yourself to be trained. That's why a lot of guys, they get developmental deals in the Performance Center, and they spend a long time in that Performance Center before they go to NXT. There are guys right now still in that Performance Center learning shit because they're not ready for TV. Paul also did publicity over at Studio 54, and he booked Bam Bam Bigelow's debut match at Studio 54. He was 380 pounds and coming off the top rope. He eventually catches the attention of Vince McMahon and makes the WWE. Now, during this time, the big guys did not go off the top rope. You very seldom saw that. The only other person that maybe did that was Vader. I think Vader was before Bam, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that assumption, but I think Vader was around before Bam. If he wasn't, then maybe Vader got it from Bam. I don't fucking know. The point is, other than Vader and Bam Bam, you did not see a lot of big names go off the top rope. No. They didn't do it. They were told not to do it because you don't need to. There's a reason why big men aren't supposed to do these kind of moves. And the reason is because if a big guy can do it, then it ain't shit when the little guy does it. If the Big Show can do a moonsault, why would I be impressed by Shawn Michaels? That's the point. True. Just because you can do a move doesn't mean you should do it. Because it buries other people. That's why in WCW you had the cruiserweight guys who did their thing. You had the big top guys who did their thing. Everybody wrestled a different style, so they weren't all exactly alike. Now, as I said, Bam Bam was one of the first, so that's why he was kind of a phenomenon, so he was able to get away with it. But guess what? Not everybody's Bam Bam Bigelow. No. So just because he did it doesn't mean you should. Because you might not be able to get away with it like he did.
Very true.
Not only is Bam Bam headed to the WWE, but he's coming in with the full support of company owner Vince McMahon. He went out of his way to make him the next big thing. They even had managers in a bidding war to try to get him as a client. From Jimmy Hart to Mr. Fuji to Bobby Heenan to Dr. Slick. There's like one other guy, but I couldn't see his face. I couldn't tell who it was. But those were the guys I did see. So the managers are all like, ooh, we got to get him as a client. Because that's a big deal. If the managers are all fighting over somebody, that must make him a big deal. So Vince immediately saw dollar signs with Bam Bam. And that's the advantage to having a physique or being a big guy, is you're seen as money right away. We just got to know if you can talk and if you can work and if you can be safe. But if you don't have a physique, you got to work 10 times as harder because you're not as impressive to look at. Vince loved big guys, as we know, and was ready to make him a top guy by having him team up with Hulk Hogan at Survivor Series. So they had him debut with Hogan and his Survivor Series team. Hulk took him under his wing and taught him the business. There is no bigger learning tree.
Especially at that time.
Oh my God.
Hogan, oh hell yeah.
Imagine that. You come into wrestling, you're coming out of wrestling school, you're going straight to the WWE.
Yeah.
And the guy who's mentoring you is the number one guy in the whole fucking world. Vince McMahon's right hand at that time. Mm-hmm. The guy who was helping Vince usher in this new global era of wrestling where we're no longer a territory, we're going national, and we're taking all the territories out. And you get to sit under that learning tree? Fuck yeah, you had the potential to be great. And if I know Bam Bam, he was smart. He's shutting his mouth, he's nodding his head, he's going, yes, sir. So, and Bam's already got the stuff. But you do need veterans to help you. And at that time, who better to ask? That's like going into the business today and sitting under the learning tree of Roman Reigns. That's the best way I can describe it.
Pretty much.
I would say Cena, but he's part-time now. But I know at the time we're recording this, Cena's supposed to be making a lot of appearances over the next month. So if you got a chance to catch Cena's ear, get it. Take the advice. Fucking listen. Let these veterans teach you.
Yeah, especially John Cena.
Yeah, he's a legend. They were working 60 nights in a row in front of sold-out crowds. He was also featured in the first wrestling video game.
Yeah, and he also won on the Super Nintendo one where every time he won, he goes, bam, 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 bam. It's like, I use bam, bam a lot.
And then there was the ones where, like, with Vince McMahon doing the talking, like, tonight, in this squared circle, The Undertaker versus Bam Bam Bigelow. And then cuts in. And that's literally how Vince would sound in the videos, like, The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. Like, that was fucking great. He was a young guy on top of the card, and a lot of guys were fueled with jealousy because they had been in the business for like 15 years, and he's at the top of the card after being in for 2. One guy in particular had an issue, was Andre the Giant. He beat him up and wrapped the rope around his neck to choke him.
Fucking could have killed him.
Andre thought he was a young, cocky kid. Andre called him a kid and said he was going to learn, and he was green, and he had to wait his turn.
Benny, let's take off our hats for Bam Bam for getting his ass kicked by Andre the Giant. I saw that, dude. I was like, he was doing what he did to Randy. I mean, beat the shit out of him. He couldn't pull his hair, but like was like literally choking him. I was like, and wrapped the rope around him, and when he was laying on the ground, like everybody like, oh my god, Bam Bam's dead, but he's moving around. I'm like, this is what you get for being a little too green there, Bam Bam, especially against somebody like Andre the fucking Giant.
Okay, I got something to say right now.
Uh-oh.
Okay, this is another Booch rant because I really got to talk about this.
Oh boy, here we go.
If there's one thing that really grinds my gears, what really pisses me off is when I hear this type of fucking shit. Because I hear this shit all the time in wrestling. I've been on the independents for 50 years. I drive around in my beat-up car. I eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Hey, don't
I was homeless. I was homeless and I lived outside and I had to beg people to train me.
I am a professional wrestler and I am divorced and I live in a divan down by the river.
Pretty much. I hear this shit all the time, and then they go, and yet this guy has only been here for like a year or a couple of years, and he just walks in and gets a main event spot. Okay, let me tell you something, Mr. Hot Dog and a Handshake. Would you like to know why? Would you like to know why a guy like Bam Bam can come in and take that spot? You want to know why a guy like Logan Paul can come in and take that spot? You want to know why a woman like Ronda Rousey can walk into the main event of WrestleMania? You want to know why?
Why?
They draw money. That is the purpose of professional wrestling. Why is this a difficult concept for people in the business to fucking grasp? If you don't draw money, you ain't worth shit. It doesn't matter how long you've been wrestling. It doesn't matter how great your moves are. It doesn't matter how many stars Dave Meltzer fucking gives you. If no one is going to pay money to see you, you will never be a top guy. Simple as that. And guess what? Not everybody is meant to be a top guy. Some of you, the mid-card is the best you're gonna get. Some of you should just be happy and blessed that you're able to make a living in the business. If you're able to pay your bills and feed your family with wrestling without having to work a day job on the side, you made it. And there are some people who only wrestle on the weekends, do a job 5 days a week, and they're content with that life. And I'm not hating anybody that is in that spot. If you found a way to be content without having to be signed by AEW or WWE or anything else, props to you. I have all the respect in the world for people who can make a living in this business because it's not easy to do. No. But understand this. You have to be a money draw. You have to be a person that when they see your name on the marquee or your picture on a poster, it motivates them to leave their comfortable chair, leave the comfort of their own home, get in a car, drive to a building, pay to park, go up to the ticket taker, buy a ticket, go in, sit in an uncomfortable chair, surrounded by thousands of people they don't even know, and maybe one or two people they do if they bring their friends, sit in that chair and watch you. Are you that person that is worth paying money to see? Bam Bam Bigelow was that.
Yes, was.
Logan Paul is that.
Yes.
Ronda Rousey was that. Sasha Banks wanted to get her panties twisted and go, who is you and what you do? Oh, you know who she is, Sasha? I'll tell you who she is. Her name is Ronda Rousey and she draws money. Something you never did in the business. Ronda Rousey was a UFC megastar who only lost 2 fights. And it was the last 2 fights she had. She was fucking dominant up until that point. And she stole the show at WrestleMania 34. That is a key thing. Bam Bam Bigelow was a money draw, and from what I was gathering, was easy to work with. Now, I wasn't in the locker room, so I don't know if Bam Bam Bigelow was being a cocky little shit. So for a moment, let's just say hypothetically, he was being a cocky little shit. If he was walking around acting like his shit didn't stink, then I 100% endorse what Andre did. Because that is something I can't stand. It's people in the business who are arrogant, that are in no position to be arrogant, Matt Riddle, who should not be doing shit like that. That's why I hate Matt Riddle so goddamn much. That's why I hate him. He's a disrespectful shit in the locker room, and he's a little bitch ass with all the stupid shit he's been doing lately. In fact, his personal problems are why he's not getting much of a push. And he doesn't deserve one any motherfucking way. He's one of those guys who should have been fired a long time ago. People give me shit for hating the Miz. Compared to Riddle, Miz is a saint. At least Miz has a little bit of respect for the business. Riddle has none. Fuck him. But if Bam Bam wasn't being a cocky little shit, then Andre was out of line. Mm-hmm. And he's just fucking jealous. Because Bam Bam's career was going up, and Andre was kind of on the decline. Mm-hmm. Not hating on Andre, but he after WrestleMania 3, he was pretty much on the decline.
He went down.
Because his back was getting messed up. He had health problems. He was on the verge of retirement. Yes. So, like I said, I was not in the locker room, so I can't say whether or not Andre did the right thing. But I just want to say that I am sick and tired of these people getting mad because you're losing your spot to people who draw money and you never drew a dime the whole 15 years you've been working the towns. After only a year in the big leagues, Bam Bam Bigelow's match with Andre the Giant marks his exit from the WWE. Now on his own, Bam Bam travels the country working for various U.S. promotions before receiving a lucrative offer to wrestle in Japan. He would be there for 2 weeks, home for 2 weeks, and that was a pattern during his run there. That's why people liked it. He made a lot of money, but he could also spend time with family and do all that. And that's why a lot of people like to work the independents, to have that work-life balance. Yeah. Or be part-timers nowadays, to have work-life balance. And there are some people who work part-time and deserve it. There's some people who work part-time and they don't. You know, for example, guys like John Cena and Edge are on the right to be part-time.
Yeah.
Brock, not so much, but...
No.
But anyway, that's the point. He worked with a lot of stars, including Antonio Inoki, which again, big name in Japan, another big learning tree. Inoki was like the fucking Hulk Hogan of Japan. Yeah. So that was a big fucking deal. Remember in Collision in Korea, he originally wanted to work Hogan. But Hogan was like, I'm not fucking going to North Korea, and that's why he had to settle for Ric Flair. 1992, as the WWE struggles with declining popularity, Vince McMahon brings Bam Bam back to the roster. Once again proving to be a top-level star, Bam Bam gets thrust into the main event of WrestleMania 11 when McMahon books him against one of the NFL's most celebrated players, Lawrence Taylor. Love that. I still remember that one.
Yeah, I remember watching. I was like, oh my god, yeah. I knew Lawrence Taylor was big, but not that big.
Yes. Although I'm not gonna lie, I don't like that was the main event because you know how I am. Royal Rumble winner and champion should main event the Rumble. It should have been Diesel and HBK.
I was like, wait a minute, hold up. They put LaDainian Thompson and Bam Bam Bigelow as a main event, but not Shawn Diesel and
Shawn Michaels and Diesel.
Shawn Michaels and Diesel. Yeah, sorry.
And it's Lawrence Taylor, not LaDainian Tomlinson, and you will walk home if you say that again.
Sorry.
It was a match for the general public that was meant to bring in football and mainstream press.
Yeah.
Because, again, this is what people are trying to do. They do these crossover things to bring in the mainstream. They want to bring in the football press. It's why they had Tyson at WrestleMania 14 to bring in boxing press. Because for WrestleMania, it's the biggest show of the year. So they go all out for WrestleMania. They will bring in celebrities. They will bring in fucking legends. They will do whatever they have to do to pack the arena. Because back then they were still doing arenas.
In most recent years, when they do the opening music, they have musicians that suck or we don't know anything about. Remember this year's WrestleMania? Like, who the fuck is this guy?
Well, it's people who are popular with the current generation. And we don't listen to a lot of modern day music because it's trash. So that's a different story. The match and the pay-per-view didn't get great reviews, but nobody could have carried LT the way Bam Bam did. And it was a relatively good match.
Yeah.
Now, some people think that the pay-per-view was considered the worst WrestleMania. I don't know if I go that far. I'd have to watch it again to make sure. Cause we've seen plenty of WrestleManias recently that weren't very good over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I've seen some shitty WrestleManias. Like, okay, you guys really
Like I said, we have to watch. Maybe someday we'll do WrestleMania 11. I don't know. I don't know when it's going to happen. That's ways away because we got plenty of other WrestleManias in the can. But someday when we do WrestleMania 11 and I watch it, I'll see for myself if it was bad. 'Cause I saw it once when I was a kid. Like a long time ago, I had a big VHS box set. Yeah, VHS, how far back this is going. And I did see it. So I don't remember it being the worst WrestleMania, but I was a kid. So I have to look at it with my new analyst wrestling brain.
You couldn't record it. You missed it.
You could record it. Yeah, if you had a good VCR, you could record it if you ordered the pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's true.
So I recorded a bunch of pay-per-views on VHS.
Still have some, you think?
Yeah, I know I have them. I just know they're worthless now. Because you can fucking get them on Peacock. Keep in mind, in the 90s, I made box sets because I never in my wildest dreams thought there would ever be TV shows in a DVD box set or on Netflix or anything. This shit if I could see that shit in the future, I never in a billion years would have recorded any of that shit if I knew it would be on demand in the future. Because in the 90s, there was no such thing as on demand. You either watched it or you were fucked. That's the only. If you missed an episode, you just didn't know. And unless you saw the TV guide on magazine, you were able to see what episode was coming up. And kids didn't fucking read the TV guide. Our parents did. If you missed an episode, you have no idea how the story went. It wasn't until Friends got on Netflix that there were certain stories that I finally saw the ending to. Mm-hmm. Or how things were out of order or whatever the fuck. Yeah. Because I couldn't remember. Bam Bam soon learns that being the company's go-to big man comes with certain sacrifices. It put a lot of wear and tear on his body because of his size. And he couldn't slow down in WWE because he knew someone would take his place if he took time off.
So basically he did the one thing he wasn't supposed to. He ignored the pain. So, no, I'm okay. I'll be okay the next day. It's like, okay, whatever you say. It was like, it's not that easy.
Yeah, because back then, if you didn't work, you didn't get paid. True. There were no guaranteed contracts yet. Now, of course, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash would be the pioneers of the guaranteed contract, but they didn't have one. The day you didn't work is the day you didn't get paid. And they also knew in wrestling, out of sight, out of mind. Sure. That's why a lot of times when you hear people get injured and they make a return to the ring, their biggest fear before they go through that curtain is the crowd going to remember me? Is the crowd going to care? Have I been gone for too long? Am I no longer relevant? That's a fear. Even some of the biggest names that you would think would never happen to had that fear. Like AJ Styles was afraid when he first came out for the Rumble. these fans gonna know who I am? They popped.
Yeah.
Triple H, when he came back from the quad tear, are they gonna care? They didn't.
Oh,
Hell,
he got one of the loudest pops ever.
Hell, Chris Jericho, when he made his comeback in 07, the whole Save Us thing.
Yeah.
When he came out, he said, this is the second coming of Y2J. And the crowd went crazy. And as the crowd dies down, he goes, you remembered. So he wanted to make sure, were you going to remember me? Are you going to care? And they did. So
I'll never forget what he did to Rain. Me want title match.
So he used pain pills to get through. And as long as you had a prescription, it didn't affect your drug test.
And that's the thing about this. Like, most people who lose their life over pain pills or some horrible accident, Martha Hart, his wife at the time, now his ex-wife, said it wasn't the wrestler's fault, it was that fucking doctor. Ooh, she hated that doctor. Ooh, she didn't like that doctor. He kept on giving more pills and more pills. That's all the doctor did. Well, I'm not giving any more. Go to rehab.
I'm talking about Bam's wife.
Yeah.
Because you said Hart. That's Owen's wife. That'd be Owen's wife.
I was making fun of Martha's Hart.
Yeah, you kind of threw us off on that one, dude.
Martha Hart can still get over that.
Let's not get into that. If you want to learn about that, go watch Final Days of Owen Hart. But no, so it didn't affect your drug test. Now, they tested for pot because at the time, marijuana was not as legal as it is today. Now, WWE does no longer test for marijuana. They stopped doing that. But back then, they did. They tested for pot, the hardcore drugs like crack, cocaine, crystal meth, heroin, and steroids. Because they'd gone through the steroid thing. So they were testing for that. But if you had a prescription from a doctor for your pills, they didn't fuck with you. So the drug tests were there, but they weren't as strong as they are today.
Nope.
Now they test for that shit or help you watch out because they've seen too many wrestlers, die from this. So he was also diabetic.
Ugh. And
he had an endocrinologist who was not a pain management doctor. And he would call him and say, I need perks, I need Vicks, I need Oxys, I need something to keep me going. Sometimes he'd be at a pool party and doctors would offer him refillable prescriptions of Oxycontins in return for autographs and or tickets to local shows. These were doctors who did not give a fuck about their licenses.
Now they do.
They do. Like, nowadays, here's the worst part. There are people who actually need painkillers. And they have a bitch of a time getting prescriptions and getting them refilled. Because now they're scared of people becoming addicted. So they will literally give you a little bit and make you sit through real debilitating pain because of fuckers who can't get off the shit or abuse the system. And I know I'm saying fuckers. I'm not trying to disrespect Bam Bam's memory. I'm just saying it's bullshit that people who actually need the painkillers because they're actually using them to get rid of the pain have to have a bitch of a time because people abuse them.
And they do work great.
They do work.
After I had my ribs, I was on Oxycontin. This is back when I was on probation, too.
Vicodin is a gift from fucking God. When I had my wisdom taken out, I was on Vicodin. That shit was beautiful. So, it can become addictive. Because Vicodin makes you happy.
Oxycontin makes you happy.
In 1995, after a 3-year run with the WWE, Bam Bam Bigelow leaves the company to sign with the notorious hardcore wrestling promotion ECW.
And I think that's where he fucked up. I was thinking his body could not have taken. I was like, no, dude, if I was him, I was like, okay, I'm gonna come home, save my money, and recover.
It was run by his old friend Paul Heyman. He liked that it was local and he didn't have to travel much. That's why he went to ECW. Because ECW, its main headquarters was Philadelphia. That was the heart of ECW. Now, of course, eventually ECW did travel on the road once they got the deal with TNA on TV. But before that, they would hold their big shows, their pay-per-views, in other places, but they had their TV in one spot, and it was in Philly, which is not that far of a drive from Jersey.
How far of a drive is it?
About an hour or so.
Really?
Yeah, it's really not that far. That's why when I lived in Jersey, we visited my grandparents on a regular basis. The only reason we don't visit them regularly now is because we live in Georgia. Mm-hmm. We were still up in New Jersey. We would go there for Christmas. I don't think we went there for New Year's, but we definitely go up there for like Christmas, maybe Thanksgiving. Although sometimes we spend Thanksgiving at the house. Mm-hmm. But for like a few holidays and every now and then we'd go up to Philly and visit family. Yeah. So that's kind of what we did. The crowd was insane to the point where a grown man punched Bam Bam's son in the face during a mosh pit. The guy was taken backstage for a conversation.
Yeah, I wonder where this conversation was going. As soon as I saw that, I know exactly where this is going to fucking go.
And Bam goes to the room and says, so you like to hit kids, and beat the fuck out of them. Now, Bam, obviously, he's in the ring. He don't know about it. But his kid comes backstage and Bam sees his face and goes, "Who did that to you?" Because again, Bam Bam was all about his kids.
Yes, he was.
And Zach, you've been in mosh pits, so you know shit can get crazy. So I don't know if this guy intentionally meant to punch him.
No, they said he was drunk as shit when he hit.
And Bam beats the fuck out of him because...
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully
Bam
so.
is 100% in the right. Every parent knows that. Someone puts their hands on your kid, oh hell.
Oh hell, it's gonna break loose.
Oh god. But the fans in turn are fueled by ECW's over-the-top, ultra-violent brand of extreme wrestling. That's why they were savages. It was the land of misfit toys that WWE and WCW didn't want. And you had to be a legitimate tough guy to wrestle there. Because of their style, you had to be tough. And Bam Bam was tough. He's been in fights. He's brawled. He's done shit. So Bam Bam was not afraid of ECW. But it really was the place that if WWE didn't want you and WCW didn't want you, this was your third option.
Literally on the totem pole.
It was. The only thing lower than ECW were the indie shows. That was pretty much it. It was WWE was top, WCW was the middle, ECW was the bottom. Now for 83 weeks, it was WCW, WWE, ECW. But then WWE eventually turns the tide, as we'll talk about later. But that was how it went. That was the totem pole. Bam and Taz have a match in Asbury Park where Taz gets put through the ring. Now, I saw this match. I think Gator and I might have reviewed this on a classic show.
As far as I know, you guys never talk about Bam Bam.
I think we have. If we haven't, then, we're going to talk about it. Believe me, I think we have. I'll have to remember. I think we have. Now, here I like this part because this is where people finally get an education on how a ring is built.
Yeah.
Because so many people want to know what's under the ring. Like, is there a trampoline? That's a big rumor because of why the people jump so fucking high. Is there like a mattress so you don't get hurt? And again, these are casual fans who've never been in a ring, never taken a bump, that don't know. I've been in a ring. I've taken bumps. I know how painful that shit is. Now, when I say I've taken bumps, I'm not trying to put myself in the same category as wrestlers who taken bumps. They take bumps almost every night. I took a bump in a wrestling show, and I once took a bump when I went to wrestling school for a day, which you can find that video on my personal YouTube channel. But here's what they say. The ring has a steel frame, thick wooden boards, a cushion. There's a little bit of a cushion, but not a lot. And then the canvas. Those are the layers. So when you take a bump, you're landing on a cushion, underneath wooden boards, underneath fucking steel. There's no mattress, and there's no trampoline.
Nope.
So when those motherfuckers leapfrog, they fucking leapfrog. Yep. That's legit them jumping over a motherfucker. So think about that next time you see a leapfrog in a basic match and realize that motherfucker is jumping for a shoot. Yeah. He's that fucking athletic. There's no trampoline giving him an advantage.
No, there's no trampoline at all.
Trampoline was only used one time in a match, and that was for Sin Cara's entrance. But people never saw it unless you went to a show and you saw it, or the cameraman accidentally caught it. Remember how Sin Cara would run to the ring? He'd jump over the ropes. There'd be a little mini trampoline there, and he would go like, boom, flip over it and land.
Yep.
But you weren't supposed to see the trampoline.
Yep, you were.
But one day somebody had a camera phone, and they caught that shit.
Yes, they did.
And they were so desperate to put it on the net. So for the match, the wooden boards are cut. They gimmick the board so they could be moved out of the way. And then they open up a trap door, and they went through the trap door. They set up a trap door in a corner of the ring.
Yeah.
And they saw the boards so they can move them later. There's a good chance they're telling everybody, hey, don't touch this area of the ring. You can do whatever the fuck else you want to do, but don't touch this area because you're going to fuck things up. And back then, these were wrestlers who fucking listened. If the boss told them don't do this, guess what?
Don't do it.
They didn't do it. That's how much respect they had for Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Nobody listens to AEW because they don't respect Tony Khan. And I'm not hating on Tony Khan, I'm just telling the truth. Because if you respect your boss, you do what he tells you to do. If you don't respect your boss, you ain't going to listen to him. We're all guilty of that at our jobs. How many times have you had a boss that had no business being your boss, that when he told you to do something, you were like, fuck you. Now, there's some bosses you respected, you'd be like, yes, sir, and you do it.
Okay, yeah.
That's the difference. If you respect your boss, you do what he tells you to do. If you don't respect your boss, you're not going to listen to him. You still should regardless, because it's your fucking job. But I'm just being honest. People who don't respect their boss don't listen to you. They don't have your respect. You can give whatever orders you want. They ain't gonna listen. Now, Bam was worried about Taz's head. He didn't want his head hitting the steel. He didn't want him to get hurt. Because again, this is when wrestling. Protect your opponent. Safety. So, despite ECW being reckless as fuck, Bam was at least still keeping people safe. I can't speak for the other people on the roster, but Bam generally cared about Taz's safety. They spend most of the match outside the ring until they get the signal that the trap door is open. So that's why if you watch the match, they go out to the floor eventually and they start fighting all around. So while they're fighting and the camera's focused on them, off camera, they're pulling the boards out because that's why they cut them. So they're dragging those boards out and the referee's keeping an eye on it. And then the referee gives them a signal, whatever their signal is. Mm-hmm. They work it out in the back like, hey, when I do this, this means this, whatever. So eventually they signal and they go, all right, door's open. So they make their way back to the ring. Taz jumps up and locks in a chokehold on Bam. Mm-hmm. It's not a Taz mission, it's just a choke. And Bam puts his hand on the top rope and he's following it. Under his hand is a little piece of white tape. That white tape was the measurement to clear Taz's head. So he's like measuring like, okay, time it. And he's timing it the right way so he knows, okay, when I get to this spot, I'm going to fall. And then when I go through, his head won't hit anything. So Bam is timing it. And the best part is because he's being choked, he can slowly time it because as he's moving slowly, it looks like he's fading. So that's good storytelling. He's doing it in a believable way. Because you don't think he's measuring shit. You don't know that. Mm-hmm. You just see him going, oh my God, he's trying to get his balance. He's trying to hold on so he doesn't drop to his knees and fucking choke out. Like, it's believable. And then eventually, they go through the ring, and underneath the trap door is a crash mat to break their fall so they don't hit the floor at least. So they hit the floor, crowd goes insane. Now keep in mind, when you watch it on TV, all you see is the hole.
Yeah.
You don't see them.
Nope.
The camera's on them, the crowd's going nuts, and you're just watching. You don't know what's going on. But during that time, we now know, once they hit the ground, they go through the mat, Bam immediately turns to Taz, and the first words out of his mouth are you okay? He wants to make sure, and Taz goes, yeah, I'm fine, I'm fine. Then Bam goes, we fucking did it! But first he wanted to make sure he was okay. And Taz, that's the kind of man Bam was. He immediately wanted to know, are you okay? Did you hit your head? Are you hurt? Did you break anything? And Taz is like, I'm fine, brother, I'm fine. And then now Bam can celebrate because no one's hurt. And then they wait for the crowd to die down. That's why they're taking so long. They're selling the fact they just went through the fucking ring, but also they're giving the crowd time to die down. That is controlling the audience. Because a lot of times, everything today in wrestling is fast-paced, fast-paced, fast-paced. They're going move, they're moving all over the place, and you can't keep up. That's why selling in wrestling today is god-awful. They don't take the time to sell any moves, and they don't take the time to let shit register. And by that, we mean give the audience time to process what the fuck they're looking at. That's why we see people selling on the ground. They're selling for a period of time. They're letting it register with the audience. I'm in pain. This fucking hurts. That's what pacing is. That's what registering is.
Fortunately, they don't get that.
We don't. We should, but we don't.
They don't.
Now, he then gets out of the pit. Mm-hmm. He pulls out Taz. And then he covers him. 1, 2, 3, and the place explodes. Because keep in mind, they're in Asbury Park. This is Bam Bam's hometown. Boom, he's over. This is fucking great. Amazing storytelling. They took the crowd on a ride, brought him up, let him come down, brought him back up again, and then 1, 2, and here's the best part. They went home. Bam didn't pick him up, bring him back in the ring, and then do a fucking moonsault off the top rope, or pick him up and do a fucking finisher. You know what he did? He pinned him. Why? Because you can't top that.
No, don't do any destroyers.
Exactly. No fucking Canadian destroyers. There were no fucking triple somersaults. No one went through a fucking table. None of that.
Nobody jumped off a ladder. Nobody hit 20 super kicks.
Exactly. It was, we went through the ring, go home.
And it was called a hoss fight.
Yes, that was a hoss fight.
Yeah, that was a hoss fight. Taz and Bam Bam Bigelow, come on.
Yeah. Now, we then find out Bam Bam had stenosis in the entirety of his spine. He had crushed discs, and he had sections fused of his back at the time. Pills just allowed him to move. So at this point, he's not only taking pills to get rid of the pain, he's taking pills to move his body so he can get up and walk and wrestle. And again, he's doing all this to make his living. That's why he's doing all this. Now, if you didn't work, you didn't get paid. So he did what he had to do to get through it. He didn't complain about his injuries. He wrestled through them. So he was hurt, but he was never telling anybody. That's what Taz said. There was never a time where Bam said, hey, brother, I got a bad shoulder. Watch my shoulder. Hey, my knee's a little messed up. Because sometimes in the back, you do that. If you're working with an injury or you're working with pain, you would tell a guy, like if Zach and I were working a match, I'd tell him, hey, man, I got a bad shoulder right here. So if you're going to work the arm, work this one.
Gotcha.
Okay? Don't touch this shoulder.
Well, they usually have a special tape, that special type of tape taped up. So like,
well,
okay,
now,
don't touch.
Well, that's
don't
modern
touch
technology.
Yeah.
They didn't have that back then. Back then it was, hey, brother, watch my shoulder. Or, hey, I can do a clothesline. I can come off top rope. I can duck a clothesline, but I can't do the crisscross because I got bad ankles. Or I can't dive out of the ring, but I'll take a dive from you. Like, you worked that shit out in the back. You saw what limitations you had, and you worked around it to put on a match. That's professionalism. But Bam didn't do that. That was his choice. The pain pills Bam Bigelow consumed allowed him to continue performing at the highest level. They also took a toll on his life away from the ring. In the beginning, he was never aggressive at home. Like I said, he was family. When he was home, he was a husband, he was a father, he took care of his kids, he was happy, never came home and had a problem. That later changed. His wife wanted to get help because he was incoherent, but he would call her a liar and said, I need these pills to stay in the business, and I have a prescription. Because that's what they would say. You know, you shouldn't be taking these pills. Look at the prescription.
Look at the prescription.
Hey, I need these. A doctor gave me these. Keep in mind, this doctor is not a pain management doctor. No. He is getting pills from an endocrinologist who specializes in diabetes. That's like going to a plumbing office and asking the receptionist to fix your toilet. And wondering why your toilet's not fixed properly. Because you brought the receptionist. She's not trained to do plumbing. She's trained to answer the phone and set up appointments. Or like when I was a cashier and they would know, how come you don't know anything about gardening and appliances? Because I wasn't trained there, you fucking asshole. I was trained to operate a goddamn register. You give me money, I give you your change, I give you your receipt, I say have a nice day, and you walk the fuck out the door. Fucking morons. He had a doctor that treated him for one disease and wound up giving him a whole new one. Basically is what happened. The doctor was a fan who would have helped him in any way, even though it was unethical. His wife told the doctor to stop sending him pills because you are destroying our family. The doc would call Bam and say, the warden is telling me not to come over. The doctor was technically a drug dealer because he was not a paying doctor. Bam Bigelow's addiction continues to get worse, fueled by an endless supply of Oxycontin from his doctor. And then they say this. Here's the thing about Oxycontin that they did a study on. In 1996, there were 300,000 prescriptions given out for Oxycontin. By 2001, there was 6 million. Doctors were pulling out 6 million prescriptions for Oxycontin. Now, that wasn't for Bam. That's a national average. So Oxycontin was getting out of control. When his daughter was born, he made an effort to be a father to her. He was always a great dad. His body was deteriorating, and he knew he had to make as much money as he could because there was no pension. There's no pension in wrestling. Right. No. The closest you get to something like that today is if you get signed to a Legends contract. When you're signed to a Legends contract, they pay you. Now, you're still free to do conventions and shit like that. You're just not free to go to like AEW if you're signed to a Legends contract. But the Legends contract is kind of a thank you for your service. Like, hey, here's something you can get. You get regular money from that and, you know, royalties and shit like that. They give you a little bit of money. Yeah, that's like to help you out. And they also bring you in for wrestling appearances or for WWE appearances or WWE interviews and shit like that. He was considered the highest paid loser because he would take a loss if it paid well.
Basically, he was the highest paid jobber?
Yes. Because that's the thing. It's because Bam Bam knew he had to make as much money as possible. Yeah. So if you paid him enough money, he'd do the job. And some wrestlers were like that. There were some wrestlers who didn't mind doing the job. If you threw enough money at them, it's like, okay, I'll do the job.
I'll do the job. Because
sometimes that's how, at least how Vince McMahon was when he wanted somebody to do something that he could tell you did not really want to do. Mm-hmm. Your reward would be another zero on the paycheck. Best example of that is when Jericho jobbed to Fandango. Because Jericho didn't want to do it. But eventually, Vince talked him into it. Well, actually, no, it was The Undertaker who talked Jericho into it. And he went out and did it. And Vince said, look, I know you didn't want to do that, but here's some extra money for a job well done. Basically, he made the same amount of money jobbing to Fandango that he did in the title match with CM Punk the year before. So he made a lot of money that night. A couple figures. Eventually, DDP helps to bring Bam Bam into WCW. Bam Bam was proud that DDP got in the business and made it to the top. Eventually, they became tag team champions as part of the Jersey Triad with Chris Kanyon, as I mentioned earlier. But yeah, Bam Bam told Dallas how proud he was that he finally went into the business and was able to become a top guy. He eventually became the world champion. You know, he was a U.S. champion. They held the tag belts together, and they got to hang out in the business a lot. 3 of them became brothers. In fact, they were all from Jersey. They all kind of bonded. Locker room. Eventually, his old habits came back, and he started missing shows.
That's a no-no.
That made him a liability, and they paid him the rest of his contract to stay home because he could not function. So he was still paid the duration of his contract, but they didn't use him anymore because that's the worst thing you can do. There's a lot of things in wrestling you can do, but the most unforgivable sin is to no-show. Is the worst thing you can do. Because once you start no-showing events, you're no longer dependable. And also, you're not only letting the company down, you let down the fans who pay to see you. You let down the guy you were working with because now he's got nothing to do. They got to find something for him or pay him and send him home if there is nothing. So you let a lot of people down when you no-show. Now, there are some cases where you might not be able to make it. And if you give enough advance notice, or if some shit goes down, you're not able to make it, like a flight gets delayed, or your car breaks down, or you got a family member that's rushed to the hospital and you can't leave their side. There might be some instance where you no-show and fans are like, I get it. Well, the fans might be mad in the heat of the moment, but later on it's like, I get it. It makes sense. But when you just flat out don't show up, that's a problem. No-showing is unforgivable. And they forgive for a lot of shit, as you see. As Bam Bam's addiction sends him crashing to rock bottom, he's charged with endangering the welfare of his daughter. His wife told him to either get help or leave. He chose to leave. They got divorced and he moved to Tampa.
Yep, and then he got sued for child support.
Well, that's the thing. He wasn't making money anymore because he lost his job.
Mm-hmm.
And now nobody wants him because he can't really function. And he chose drugs over his family. Which, unfortunately, there are some people who do that. Yep. And to me, it's hard for me to be sympathetic over that.
Yeah, me too.
It is. I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't.
Dude.
Here's the thing. I have sympathy. And I'll make this very clear. I have sympathy for anyone in the wrestling business that is addicted to painkillers. If you have a pain pill addiction, if you have a soma addiction, I emphasize with that. And it's not just because Buff had an addiction to somas. That's not the main reason why. It's one of the reasons, but not the main one. The main one is because I understand the pain that wrestlers go through. I went through 1 day of wrestling school and needed fucking Vicodin, okay? I was taking Tylenol like a motherfucker, okay? After that day. Because it's painful. I get it. What I don't have sympathy for are wrestlers or anybody who's addicted to like crack, cocaine, heroin, crystal meth. Fuck is wrong with you? Pain pills, I get. The other hardcore shit, I don't very much. But if you are forced to make a choice between drugs or your family and you choose drugs, I cannot feel sorry for you. That's a stupid decision to make. Your family should be enough for you to at least try to get clean. It's not going to be easy. I know getting off this shit's not easy. But if your family is giving you that ultimatum, you owe it to your family to make the effort. You might slip up, you might make mistakes along the way, but you owe it to at least try. If you're telling me those drugs are so important to you that you're willing to abandon your family, you lose sympathy at that point. Yeah, I can't feel sorry for you. I can't. I can't do it. Because Bam did all this to support his family. Now you realize you're about to lose them. That should be enough to get you to quit. Because you don't need the pills anymore. Because you can't find work. Can't take care of your family wrestling. It just made no sense to me.
Very, very true.
On January 19, 2007, at just 45 years of age, Bam Bam Bigelow dies by what authorities call an accidental overdose.
Yeah, we all know what it was.
From a cocktail of illicit and prescription drugs. The mom didn't grieve because she had to be strong for the kids. The kids thought their mom was selfish for not wanting them to go see their dad, but they understand now. And, okay, now I know the mom even said, like, she doesn't consider it an accidental overdose because how do you accidentally overdose? You know what you're taking. Here's why it's called an accidental overdose. Because most people, when they're taking drugs, whatever drug it is, you're not doing it with the intent to overdose. You're doing it with the intent to get the high, positive feeling that you're trying to get. So that's why it's called accidental. Because you take so many, you're not aware of how much it would take to overdose when you're high on shit. So he was trying to get high, but he was not trying to overdose and kill himself. It wasn't attempted suicide. And the mom not being able to grieve because she had to be strong for the kids. That right there has got to be the craziest feeling. To know you got kids and you can't really grieve over a death. Because if you fall apart, what are your kids going to do? Your kids are looking to you. So you're in no position to cry over it. Also, as the mom, I'd say this. You got to remember, he left them. He made a choice to leave. So that alone would make me not able to grieve. I wouldn't feel sad because you left me to go do this. So I could empathize with her in that regard. And of course, the kids understanding as they got older, this is the reason why we don't want you around your dad.
Sure.
Because he's fucked up and all that shit. But the kids don't get that.
No, they're too young to understand.
So they're going to think the mom is selfish. But now they're adults, like, okay, I get it now. I understand why. It wasn't because you wanted to, use us as a weapon against dad. Mm-hmm. It's because you didn't want us around dad because he was reckless on the pills. Yes. So she actually has a valid reason. She's not like some parents who weaponize the kids to hurt the dad. And they're the worst moms in the world. His family doesn't fault him for what happened because they knew he was doing what he had to do to provide for the family. His mom signed the royalty checks over to the kids so they got the money. So now whenever there was royalty checks coming in from Bam Bam stuff that's put out, they get the checks. Now they're not as big today because so much time has passed, but they still get royalty checks. And if they use any footage of Bam Bam and anything else, by law they'd have to up the ante if they produce it. He did things big men didn't do before, and many consider him to be the best big man in wrestling history. I would go out on a limb and say he's up there.
I would go out on a limb and say that I'll never give him Asia Pain.
Yes. I remember that. It's like, hey, you Pain? I got something to say to you.
That's true. So I was like, wait a minute, I know who that is.
It took a minute. Well, once you see the flames on the head, it's kind of obvious.
My dad asked that, who is that? Like, that's Bam Bam Bigelow.
I still remember, B5 foam, what beanstalk you fall from? Hey, I heard you've been giving these kids a hard time. I heard that you couldn't cut it in the real man's military. I heard that it's time for you to eat. You can see the kids going there. And Major Page is like, you know what I heard? I heard your mama was so fat, they poo with the planets. And then he punched him in the face. And Payne went down.
Yeah, he did.
Like, that's a good stiff shot. And he's like, thinking about leaving yet? Actually, I think the party's just begun. See, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take this foot right here. I'm going to put it toward the left side of your face. He said, man, don't give me that Billy Jack bullshit. And he goes, hoo, 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 hoo. And he's split the foot. So he's looking down, looking at the feet, wondering which one's going to go. And then he goes, bam! And he punched him right in the throat.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh. He's like, you said you were going to kick me in the face. What, you calling me a liar? Boom! Kicked him right upside the head. And he dropped him. And then he goes,
bag of bricks.
And all the kids go, fuck!
That's part why I take off running. Like, you don't listen to me anymore.
Oh, children! And that was like, oh, fuck. That was fucking great.
Yeah.
That was fucking great. I love that. But yeah, greatest big man, like I said, I don't know. Because there is Vader, so it's hard. King Kong Bundy, Andre, Big Show, Mark Henry. Okay. There's a lot.
Ray Khali.
No.
Oh, no.
No.
Coach said, no.
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 I don't know about Khali. No. He was a bit of a diva.
Yeah,
I mean, he wrestled like a big man, so he didn't really have to do much. So that's why he wrestled like a giant. So I give him credit for that. But no, he wasn't a great big man. Especially when he was such a diva, because he'd be like, no bump tonight. No bump, baby, no bump. But no, Khali would not go up there. But I would definitely put Bam Bam up there.
Yeah,
I would. You can make a case for him being the greatest big man. And like I said, I was a fan of Bam Bam Bigelow. I loved him in WCW.
Yeah.
He was a dude that truly loved the business. He got a fast track, but he earned it, I believe. Like I said, rest in peace to Bam Bam Bigelow. Truly one of the all-time greats.
Yes, he was.
All right, that, ladies and gentlemen, will wrap up this episode of Boochcast Reviews, Darkside of the Ring. Zach, thanks so much for taking time out of a busy schedule to join us. And tune in next week. We're going to have a good one for you guys. This one's going to be controversial, and it's actually considered by many to be the best episode of Darkside of the Ring from the whole season. We're going to get into the one and only Bash at the Beach 2000. Bash of the Beast 2000 will be here next week. So until then, make sure you guys follow us on all of our podcast platforms. Link is down in the description box below. Follow us on all our social media platforms. Link is down in the description box below. You can support the Boochcast by going to podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/the Boochcast/support. That link will be in the description box below. And of course, as always, hit the subscribe button and ring that bell to be notified so you never miss another episode of Boochcast Reviews Darkside of the Ring, as well as other additional Boochcast YouTube content. We'll talk to you guys next time. Until then, pizza, baby!